since this is a coupe and not the sedan, which will just have shorter front doors and then rear doors back there, we might as well see how that rear seat space is since we have such a big wheelbase and just overall size of the vehicle. Now, getting into the rear seats is pretty easy, actually. So all you have to do is pull this little latch back here. The seats will power move forward for you. And shockingly, these are actually some really big rear seats for a coupe. We're gonna hop back here. As you can see, we have the demonic red seat option, and all we have to do is pull the seats back for us right here, and they will actually slide back into position. And if it does go too far back, it will kind of hit my knees right there, and then proceed to move a little bit forward. I think the driver can move a little bit further back than that, but as you can see in this position, it's actually quite spacious. We have seat back pockets over here, even though we have these really aggressive sports seats in the vehicle, and there is a kind of insane amount of space back here. I actually have a little armrest back here that is not hard plastic, thank you Dodge. A little storage cubby back here and a huge rear window, but obviously when we have the sedan coming, we'll have a full window that can go up and down. We also are getting heated rear seats back here, which is really quite nice for the two outboard seats, two USB-C ports, as well as two air vents back here, and all pretty nice, tasteful center console section. We do have a hump in the floor, as we know there will be a combustion version of this vehicle coming soon, so that will be for that rear drive line. And honestly, this is a really comfortable place to be. They're really nice, big suede and leather seats back here. I love the red color. They're actually very supportive and huge. We also have a center armrest over here with two cup holders, and like this car, I said, it's so big, you can literally fit 3 people back here if you really did have to. I can sit in this center area. I'm 6 feet tall as well, and you can see the 2 side passengers still actually have plenty of space back here. We even have like microphones and stuff up here so everyone can hear you in the vehicle, as well as LED lighting back here as well, which is quite nice. And the other talk back here is, of course, headroom. I'm sitting in the center, and yeah, my head's scraping just a little bit on the center panel back here, but I do fit. I moved over to the side area over here in the normal seat. I actually have a lot of headroom as well. If I put my head all the way back, it is hitting the back of this headliner over here, but generally, I actually have quite a lot of space back here. So this gives me a lot of hope for the upcoming sedan. It's gonna be pretty spacious and roomy back here. And I just saw this back here that Dodge has fit another little Easter egg. It looks like either this vehicle or the old Charger or Challenger doing a burnout. So that is a fun little touch in the back of the vehicle. And of course, getting out is just as easy as getting in. We just pull the strap and the seat will move forward if it hasn't moved all the way forward already. And we can hop out of the vehicle just like that. But let's go take a look at the rest of this interior. First, we have a new key fob finally for this vehicle. This one has a carbon finish to it. It is actually quite nice. Feels kind of hefty, pretty good quality as well. And we can remote start it to have a quick listen at the Fratsonic exhaust startup here. Have a listen to this. Yeah, that is not quiet. So there is a stealth mode. You can actually put that in so you don't wake up everyone, because it genuinely is actually quite loud. Pretty cool sound though. We're gonna hop up front. Of course, we have keyless access as well, though I am gonna point out, and this is a little disappointing, no power mirrors on this particular one since we don't have that plus group package. So you gotta fold in the mirrors on this particular one at 78 grand. That's a little bit disappointing that we don't have that even just as a standard option, and you have to go into like a $5,000 package to get it, but at least they are heated and we have blind spot. And speaking of said doors, we actually have this really interesting pattern design over here, and with that plus package has really cool ambient lighting throughout the entire door and dash, but we don't have that on this one. We also are missing out on the carbon and suede package, which really amps up the level of quality on the interior. So a lot of harder plastics in this particular one. Even this whole panel right here is plastic, though we do have a stitched upper portion over here, which is nice with red contrast stitching. We also have a pretty big storage cubby on the side over here. And since we have door latches, there is an emergency release on the lower area over here. But close up this door. Pretty solid funk, actually. I'm impressed they were able to do that with such a large door. And we find ourselves in the all-new interior. It's in remote start mode, so let's power it on. We have a literal power switch in the center area over here. It is so loud, it literally shakes the entire vehicle. So don't underestimate this, fake exhaust style system here. So what are we looking at in this wild new interior? So up front here, we actually have a heads-up display on this one, which is huge. I wish it displayed a little bit more information, but it is pretty crystal clear, so I can't complain too much there. Like I mentioned on the door panel over here, we have pretty simple switches for our 2 windows. The sedan obviously will have 4. We have lock and unlock buttons here, which don't make a sound, which is a little bit odd, though we do have a light there. Again, manual controls for our mirrors since we don't have that plus package. Though the design of this general interior I think is quite nice. I really like this wraparound shape over here. We have a Daytona badge up there for this EV, and like I said, with the plus group, all of this stuff lights up at night, which, you know, love it or hate it, I think it looks pretty cool, pretty futuristic. I like this little floating panel over here with the stitching on it, which blends right into our new air vents, which are actually quite sleek and very easy to use. I'm glad they didn't do anything crazy there. Even our hazard switch is in the shape of that little Fratsonic logo over there, so that's pretty cool as well. But you're going to notice there's a lot of buttons on this interior, and that may anger some of you guys. So you're going to notice there's only one stalk here, so that is going to blend our wiper controls with our turn indicators and high beams. And we're also going to find the rest of our headlight controls down here, actually. So we have our just daytime running lights, auto, and headlight on. We can also open our hood over there to just, you know, stare at stuff since there's no engine there. And we have a dimmer control switch over here. Now, also new in this vehicle is the steering device, which, you know, some people call it a squircle, square circle thing, but it's definitely interesting and a huge departure, I think, from the old chunky steering wheels. It's a very thin rim, honestly. I'm glad that it is still leather stitched and wrapped, though I like the red contrast stitching on here. But yeah, this took me a whole week to honestly really get used to it, how the vehicle drives. And on our left-hand side here, we're going to find controls for our calls, as well as our digital cluster controls. Right-hand side is our adaptive cruise control with full steering assist as well. Lower down here, we're going to find our drive mode selector, which I actually really like the placement of, and our power shot button. So that's going to give us boost for a certain amount of time, a little bit of extra power there. So that's a cool little button to have on this EV. We are also getting paddle shifters on the vehicle. So this is going to control our 3 stages of regen, which you can find right here. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, and that will control how intense our regenerative braking is on the all-new Dodge Charger Daytona. And another fun feature about this interior actually is this thing right here. This is what Dodge is calling the pistol grip shifter, and honestly, love it or hate this stupid silly marketing name, it's actually quite nice to hold. It's leather wrapped as well. You can put it into reverse, neutral, and drive, obviously, and it just is a nice place to hold. I'm glad there wasn't like a stupid dial or a little flicking knob over here. They actually kept an actual shifter in this car, and I like it. It actually works pretty nice, and of course it'll make a little bit more sense with the gas vehicles, though I don't think we'll ever see another manual in this car whatsoever, so a little unfortunate there. We do have a stitching panel on the side over here. This is a nice touch, and like I said, if you opted for that carbon and suede package, this whole trim over here will be carbon fiber, which right now it's just this kind of satin plastic, but thankfully it's not gloss black plastic, so I'm glad they kind of went away with that. But we are also missing out on another few features in here. So there's no wireless charger since we don't have that plus group package, which again is a little bit disappointing. And we're also missing out on a few other little touches here. Like we don't get a 360 camera, we only get a reversing camera. And let me tell you, this car needs a 360 camera. It is huge. Really, really big. So that would be nice to have, but again, you got to opt for it. We do have parking sensors, lane keep assist off button, traction control off, and a launch button down here, as well as 2 USB-C ports, which is nice. And these cup holders, I honestly would like to have a little bit deeper. They're a little too wide, I think. And sometimes with the amount of torque this car creates, it kind of just pushes your cup back and it could just spill everywhere. So definitely be conscious of that. And thankfully, our armrest is nice and padded as well. Opening it up, decent amount of storage in here. You're getting a 12-volt socket as well as a port right here for your drive experience recorder. So you plug a USB stick in here to save the videos from your recorder, which I think is pretty cool. And then we got to talk about the technology in this vehicle. So like I said, I think the design of this interior is honestly just fantastic. It looks great. It's fresh, modern, sleek. Generally, everything works pretty well. But what I think needs a massive improvement is the technology in this car. And I know it's the first just beginnings of the all-new Dodge Charger, but there's some stuff we got to talk through here. So up front on our digital cluster, that is about it. You're gonna see you can change these center modes here to a few different panels. It's a little bit slow to kind of operate in coordination with the buttons, so we have a whole bunch of performance stuff right here. Now you can press this button here, I guess twice, and it kind of does this little animation and it makes it in this very plain view. But the graphic quality on this is just a little bit disappointing. It looks very low resolution, and I wish it wasn't. This is a 2025 ground up new vehicle. I think they could have done a little bit better on that. The heads-up display is actually clearer than this screen right here. So Dodge, if you're hearing this, I know you can improve this probably over time, but one thing to note there. Now, if you want to get a different gauge view, you actually have to change your drive mode here. So you can do that by either pressing the drive mode button, and that's going to pop up the full drive mode panel in here. And since we have the track package, we get that drag and track mode as well, in addition to sport, wet, snow, auto, and custom. But you can also just simply do it by pressing these up and down buttons as well. So have a listen to what happens when I put it into sport, because the Fratsonic exhaust not only gets louder, we get a unique display. So that sound gets deeper, traction control gets turned off, and we actually get a little bit of a slightly different display over here. Same thing with track, much deeper sound. It takes a little bit of time to transition, but again, we get a little bit of a different display layout. You can't really tell on camera, but the seats are literally vibrating. It is that loud. And when you're on it, and I can actually rev it now, it's so loud, I feel like the whole car underneath is shaking. It's genuinely kind of a cool experience. And drag mode somehow gets even louder. This is like, I think, louder, or if not around as loud as the Challenger Hellcat Red Eye. And now we get the full Fratsonic logo right there in the center. And we can see our power flow from the front and rear motors, as well as our range impact from all the stuff in the vehicle. But there is no charging information in this vehicle. This is it. It doesn't show you how fast the vehicle's charging and DC fast charging. It just gives you an estimated time. And I've honestly seen it not be accurate in my course of testing over the course of this week. This needs to be worked on. If they're going to make an actual EV and do it right, this definitely needs to be worked on a lot. So hopefully we'll see improvements of that over time. But there's some issues, I think, that are here. So they have decided to put the heated, cooled, and heated steering wheel seat controls as these buttons on the side over here. They are not real buttons. They are touch buttons, and they're also not haptic. So you really have to find the right point to press them, and you really got to press it well, because sometimes it doesn't work all the time, as you can see right there. Thankfully, you can still go into like the climate settings as well in the vehicle and adjust that stuff if you don't want to touch it. But then there's like 3 layers of the same button there. So I guess there's redundancy, but I'm not a big fan of how these are laid out right there. I'm also not a big fan of how the physical climate controls buttons are laid out either. I'm grateful that there are physical buttons, but it's a weird kind of haptic panel that in the right sun conditions, well, I guess the wrong sun conditions, you just cannot see this. All the colors are completely washed out sometimes during the daytime, especially in bright sunlight, and it kind of makes this panel a little bit useless. And it also has an interesting haptic feedback to it. So it's kind of hard to see, but if you keep pressing it like really quickly, it doesn't do the haptic anymore. So right now it doesn't, and then it stops. So it's a little bit inconsistent with that. I'm glad, again, there's physical buttons, but it just feels like maybe the software behind it needs to be a little bit improved or something. Thankfully, we do have a physical control for our glove box, which is a decent size as well. No silly buttons to open that and close. But overall, this interior I think is really good in terms of space. There is so much space to spread out around here. It's so wide. I can't even touch the other end of the vehicle. It's that far away. And these seats are actually, I think, quite comfortable personally. We have a lot of bolstering supports. We have side bolster adjustments. We have thigh. There's a lot of support here. My only complaint is that the driving position is just too high. It's not low like this in the Challenger. This is my eye level right here, guys. This right here is my eye level. I feel like I'm sitting on top of the car a little bit, which makes, using this steering wheel a little bit odd at first. I think getting used to that driving position was one of the biggest things that it took me over the course of this week. And I'm very curious to see if the gas one will have a lower driving position, as the battery pack won't be under the floor area over here. So that we're definitely gonna have to wait and see. But for right now, if you're getting the EV, you're gonna have to get used to this higher driving position. Though what that does mean is there's actually an insane amount of visibility out of this car. So the glass is huge. Even these side windows are really massive, and the blind spots aren't that bad, but the mirrors kind of make up for that as well. No digital rear view mirror back here, but back here is our drive experience recorder. We do have a sunglass holder up here as well. Pretty nice panel up here, pretty common, but as you see, we don't have any controls to open this panoramic glass roof as it is fixed. And again, I really wish there was either better UV coating or a shade, because the heat coming off of this right now, it's around, I think, almost 80 degrees outside right now. It is hot. I feel the heat intense, and that means the AC is going to have to work a little bit harder, and you're going to get a little bit less range because you got to have to keep it running all the time because your head is on fire in your enclosed 2-door coupe. So, big overview of this interior. I think it's built a lot better than the previous gen, Charger and Challenger. Overall, I think it's a really nice space. It's definitely going to get better over time. Like I said, this is just the beginning. I hope the software is going to get better. And definitely with the other packages, it's going to be a little bit of a nicer experience. But overall, this is one of the nicest and strong points, I think, of this vehicle.